before the rain fell, before the crops could grow, before life could sustain itself on the land. There was a force that determined everything, not a king of men, not a ruler of empires, but a power in the sky, a presence that decided whether the earth would thrive or wither. His name was Baal, the Lord. Not a title given lightly, but one earned through power, through responsibility, through the ability to sustain life itself. Baal was not born as a figure of fear. He was not a symbol of evil. He was something far more essential. He was the bringer of rain, the master of storms, the force that turned dry land into living ground. From a young age, Baal was different. Where others saw clouds, he commanded them. Where others feared thunder, he wielded it. Rain did not arrive by chance. It came through him, and in a world where survival depended on the land, that made Baal everything, because without rain, there is no harvest. Without harvest, there is no life. So when the people looked to the sky, they were not just hoping, they were waiting for Baal. But power like that does not exist without challenge, because the world is not built on one force alone. It is built on tension, on opposition, on balance, and Baal stood at the center of it, opposed by forces that represented the very things he fought against: chaos and death. The first was Yamm the sea, unpredictable, overwhelming, a force that consumes rather than creates. Yamm was not life-giving. He was chaotic, endless, and he sought dominance over the gods, over order itself, and Baal stood in his way. This was not just a battle of strength, it was a battle of control, between chaos and structure, between overwhelming force and directed power. Baal did not shy away. He faced Yamm with thunder, with lightning, with the storm itself as his weapon. And in that clash, Baal prevailed, not by destroying the sea, but by overcoming its dominance, by proving that chaos could be challenged, that it did not have to rule everything. But that was not his only battle, because there is something more dangerous than chaos, something quieter, something inevitable, something that does not fight loudly, but waits. That force was Mata. Mot, the embodiment of death, of dryness, of the barren land. Mot does not need storms. Mot does not need strength, because where Mot stands, life simply fades. And this is where Baal's story becomes deeper, because Baal could bring rain. He could nourish the earth, but even he could not avoid the cycle. The moments where the land dries, where life slows, where death takes its place. In the myth, Mot consumes Baal, not in anger, not in chaos, but as part of a cycle, a reminder that life is not constant, that growth is not permanent, that everything moves through phases. But Baal does not end there, because just as the land returns after drought, so does he. He rises again, He returns with the rains, with the storms, with life. And this is what Baal truly represents. Not just power, not just storms, but renewal. The cycle of life itself, the rise and fall, the growth and decline, the constant movement between creation and loss. He is the reason crops grow, the reason rivers fill, the reason life continues, and that is why he was honored, not feared, because Baal was not destruction. He was necessity. He was survival. But over time, stories change, perspectives shift, and Baal became something else in the eyes of others. Not a provider, not a life giver, but an opponent, a rival, reduced to conflict, simplified into something darker. But the truth is more complex, because Baal was never just one thing. He was a force of nature, and nature is not good or evil. It simply is. The rain can nourish. Dia, it can flood. The storm can bring life, or it can destroy. But without it, nothing survives. That is the reality Baal represents. The balance between power and purpose, between force and necessity. And that is where his story becomes personal. Because every person has moments of drought, moments where nothing is growing, where progress feels slow, where everything feels dry. And just like the land, you are not meant to stay there. Because within you, there is also a storm, a force that can create change, that can bring movement, that can restore what feels lost. Baal teaches that you are not defined by the dry seasons. You are defined by your ability to rise again, to bring your own rain, to create your own momentum, to become the force that brings life back into your own world. Because the storm is not something to fear. It is something to understand, to harness, to respect. Baal was never just a rival. He was never just a name in conflict. He was a force of life, a symbol of renewal, a reminder that growth requires change, and that even after the longest drought, the rain will come again. In the end, Baal is not just the Lord of storms. He is the reason life continues. The question is, when your world feels dry, will you wait for the rain, or will you become it?